So thank you everyone for showing up. This is the first of the Free Yourself Comfort Gala, and it's to bring awareness for domestic violence. And what I want to do is first introduce myself. My name is Carroll, and I am a certified life coach for Imaging Coaching. I'm the CEO of Imaging Coaching, and the reason why I brought you all everyone out is because I wanted to give everyone a chance to educate as well as speak on domestic violence. We don't really talk much about it. It's usually a silent situation, and I'm not only a businesswoman, I'm also a survivor of domestic violence. And that's the reason why I picked this time of the year, because this October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. It's also Breast Cancer Awareness Month. But we put too much attention in just one area, not enough in both. So I decided to just bring like-minded people together and talk about this issue that we have among our family. And I'm pretty sure that everyone can relate to this issue at some point, whether you are a victim or maybe someone in your family has been a survivor of it. But I want to go ahead and get started and bring up our first speaker. And the first speaker is elder and married counselor. He also counseled me and my husband right before we got married. And I felt that he would be a great part of this event, and Stacy Hunter. So let's give her a hand up.
Expecting to use a microphone, but okay, we're going to go with what we have here. And I always do this before I start, so I like to do it first. And I thank you for waking me up and bringing me out to this conference. I pray that the words of my mouth, the meditation of my heart, be accepted in thy sight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Just glad to. First, I want to say thank you for everyone for coming to be a part of this awesome, much-needed conference. And I'm so excited. This is Sister Layla, got started. I want to thank Alayla as well as Marcus for inviting me to be a part of this. This is something I've been waiting for a long time, and it's awesome to see it finally come to fruition. Thank you to all of you all that are here with us tonight. To my wife, Miss, I know you looked at the program, it says something different, but it's Dr. Andrea Bornell Hunter is her real name, so now that we all know. And I'm going to say the same thing I say at church. This is my first lady, this is my last lady, and this is my only lady. So any brothers in the house that's looking for a lady, keep on looking. This was already taken. How about that? Did we make that clear? All right. To all the others on the panel, man, glad to have you all here. I'm going to go ahead and get into my thought, since we have a time limit here. And I first want to start off by saying, I want to tell you a story. I want to tell you a story about a boy in second grade, 7 to 8 years old, who was starting school one particular year back in the early 70s. And at the start of the school year, the teacher would ask everyone to get up and talk about their experience throughout the summer. What all that they do, where did they go, what did they do with the family, to travel, whatever they did. So different ones would get up, they would talk about, well, they went swimming, they went camping, wherever it is. And so then this one boy, he stood up, boy X. He stood up and he started talking about what his experience was. And he first started off by saying, this summer. And he started stuttering real bad. And the teacher thought he was joking because she heard him speak before. And she said, you know, young man, sit down. We don't do that playing in my classroom. As a matter of fact, I'm going to write a bad note for you to take home to your parents to tell you about your bad attitudes in my classroom. So this young man took the note home. And when he took the note home, his father happened to see the note. His stepfather happened to see the note. And when he saw the note, he said, you know, you've been bad in school, haven't you? And so what he decided to do was give him a spanking, you know, with a belt, whatever, just like a lot of kids, how we get disciplined. Very next day, he goes back to school, and he found out down the line, that this teacher was actually prejudiced against African Americans. So she was giving this particular young man a hard time. At any rate, she was just picking on things that would be bad for him, made him look bad. And she said, you know what, you're just a bad child. I'm going to take another note home, and I want your parents to sign it. Took the note home again, and as he took the note home, gave it to his father said, oh, so the belt didn't do you any good. So I guess we're going to have to use some other methods to get your attention. So they decided to use an extension cord. So which a whole lot of us can relate to, with the, getting spanked with our extension cords throughout the years. Time went on, and one time she took this note home that was really bad. They said, your child is really bad, you need to do something. It's going to get in trouble. So he takes the note home, gives it to his stepfather again. And he said, you know what, I'm really going to have to take matters into my own hands. You're really not getting the picture of what I'm trying to send to you. So what he's told him, the stepfather told his son, he said, son, I want you to go look in the back of my car and get what's in the back. He said, what is it, Dad? What is it? He said, it's a fan belt. I want you to go get the fan belt and bring it to me. And then after you get the fan belt, what I want you to do is I want you to take all your clothes off, and I want you to lay face down on the bed and wait for me to come in. He came in, gave his father the fan belt, and he laid face down on the bed. And his father began to tell him, you know what, you're a bad child, and I'm going to teach you a lesson. And he starts beating him with the fan belt, as if you were watching 12 Years a Slave. He started beating this child with the fan belt. Sores started getting on his back as if he was whipped on a tree, as if he was a slave, until blood started coming, and blood and sores all on his back. He started spanking him. And he said, I bet you won't act up anymore. And if you get any more of those notes from the teacher, it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. Everybody listen to me good? It's going to get worse. I'm going somewhere with this. And then, after that, the son, he just went into the closet. This was stepdad. The son went into his closet, crying, with no clothes on, bloody from his stepfather. Beat him with his fan belt. He starts crying, I want my real daddy. I want my real daddy. And he cried himself to sleep. This happened over and over again. He would start crying himself to sleep. And then something happened. He got another note from the teacher. And then this time, what he did was he kept the note in his pocket. And his father said, did you get another note from your teacher? The note was in his pocket. He knew it was. He could feel it. And then he looked at his stepfather and said, still stuttering. And remember that part about the stutter. No, I didn't get a note this time. And his father said, you bet not. And walked out the room and went on to work, which he did a third shift, went on to work. And with this child had stopped to think, you know what? If I don't tell him the truth, then I won't get abused. If I tell him the truth, I'm going to get abused. And so this child started developing a habit of lying, not because he was a bad child, but because he was trying to avoid being abused by his own stepfather every night. What I want to talk about tonight is the simple subject that Sister Leda has a conference about. And my thought is freeing yourself from memories of child abuse. Free yourself from memories of child abuse, because a lot of times people think, well, because the physical aspect of the abuse has left the building, you still have to deal with the mental aspect of it that's taking place. And ask yourself, if it still bothers you mentally, are you really free? Are you really free? Sometimes we think abuse only deals with adults and with marital situations, which is true, but we never look at it in light of how it affects children growing up. We look at children and how they are in school and how they have trouble being productive citizens of society. We never go back, what was wrong with them? What happened? We never go back and say, maybe it was that abuse as a child that took place. Well, to let you know, this child that I was talking about, you probably have it figured out by now, was me. It was me. I didn't even realize I was being abused. I had no idea I figured this just happens to everybody. Everybody goes through this. Everybody gets a fan belt beaten on them, laying face down with no clothes on in second grade. I figured it happened to everybody. So one day, I was on the phone talking, it was me now. I was on the phone talking to my mother, and we were just watching a Lifetime movie, and we were watching a child being abused. And I promised myself I would never tell my mother about this. She said she never knew. So, but I said I wouldn't tell my mother about it. And so I saw something on TV about a child being abused, and I just stopped, and I said to my mother, wow, that's the same thing that happened when, I said, never mind. She said, no, wait a minute. What did you just say? Say that again. What exactly did you say? I said, that's okay, Mother. She said, no, we're going to stay here. You're going to tell me exactly what happened. And I told her, I said, that's what Daddy did to me. My mother just said, you can't be, that can't be true. I never seen anything. I never would, that can't, you mean to tell me, here I am thinking I married a good man that's going to protect my family, that's going to protect my children. And all these years, my husband was beating my own son, not just disciplining him. He was beating my own son. My mother, as a result, my mother had to get counseling. I had to go through counseling with her. And before I get to my next segment, finally after the counselor suggested me and my mother sit down with the stepfather. Sit down with him and tell him about the experience. And I told him about it as we sat down. And I just asked him, I said, why did you do that? His answer was, you were a bad child and you deserved everything you got.
Wow.
We'll address that here in a second. Let me tell you, every child needs discipline. No child needs abuse. Would you agree with that?
Yep.
No child needs abuse. So one thing we have to do in talking about this, freeing yourself from even the memories of child abuse. One thing that I want to talk about here real quickly is signs of child abuse. My mother says she had no idea. Years from second grade. And she never knew it took place. She didn't know it took place because she didn't know the signs. There are signs that, I don't know, maybe they teach teachers about signs of abuse where you can see a child and they have certain signs of being abused in their home. But I want to mention some signs of child abuse in your home. And this is by the Center for Morris County Child Victims out of New Jersey. Number one, I think there's like about, I have 10 of them on here real quickly. Number one is unexplained injuries. When you see injuries on a child and there's no understanding, you haven't seen them fall or anything like that, that could be child abuse. Number two, changes in behavior. You see how they act, say like if they're just, if they're nice and then all of a sudden they take on this angry demeanor all the time. That could be child abuse. Number three, stuttering all of a sudden out of nowhere. That was me. My English was good, my speech was good, but all of a sudden out of nowhere I just started stuttering. And the reason I was stuttering, I was a child. I didn't know, I couldn't tell my mother I was being abused. I just, like I said, I thought this is what happens to every child. I didn't know, but the stuttering should have been a sign. The thing is, we didn't educate ourselves back then so we could identify that this is a sign of abuse. Number four, fear of going home. I took my wife to my city that I grew up in, and I took her, and this is the first time I'm ever telling this story openly besides just to my mother. And I took her to a top of a hill, and I said, you see that house down at the bottom of the hill? That's where I grew up. I used to stay up here, and I used to wait with a note in my pocket. I used to wait for my father to go to work on third shift. Sometimes it'd be 1 hour, sometimes it'd be 2 hours. I'd just be sitting outside. Sometimes it'd be dark. Now I'm in second grade. Sometimes it'd be dark, and I'd just be waiting for my father to go to work because I had a fear of going home. One thing you did not want is for your child to fear going home, of all places. Number five, changes in eating habits. Things that you know they normally eat with no problem, then they're like, no, I don't want this. I'm not hungry. I don't feel good. I'm okay. Just think, one thing that we neglect doing is listening to our children. We have to listen to them. Sometimes, let me say this, sometimes a mother might fear listening to the child. They know what they really want to say, but they have this fear, well, I don't want to lose my man. So for the sake of losing your man, are you not going to say anything and allow your child to be abused? We are the ones, God put these children in your lives to protect them. I'll mention that here in a second. Change eating habits. Number 6, change in sleeping. They're staying up all night. You go into the room and they check on them, and you see they're still awake at 1, 2, 3 in the morning. That's not normal. Kids need a good night's sleep if they're going to be productive in school. And when you see this, you have to question, why is it? It's not always because, well, they're a bad child and they've been sitting and watching TV. Maybe there's some abuse that's taking place, and it could be taking place right in your own home. Change of sleeping. Number 7, almost through this. Changes in school performance. Change in school. Your child has been a student, and all of a sudden the teacher's calling you to stand. I don't understand. Your child does so well. They're usually getting A. Now they're getting D's and F's. They don't even want to do their homework, and they usually help everybody else. Too many times we think, well, this child has some ADD or DDD. Maybe it's abuse that's taking place in the home. Number 8, lack of personal hygiene. Lack of personal hygiene. You notice these things around them. When you go to church, you notice kids that they haven't been taking care of themselves properly. And you just think, well, maybe it's because they don't have the means to purchase deodorant or whatever. Do you ever think maybe somebody could be abused and you're just trying to get out of the house? It's a sorry situation when children don't want to be at home, when that should be the most loving place in the world for them to be, is at home. Number 9, risk-taking behaviors. Risk-taking behaviors. They're in 5th grade, 4th grade, and they're trying cigarettes, and they're trying alcohol, and things like this, taking risks like that. And number 10, inappropriate sexual behaviors that we happen to notice. These are things that we as parents have to start taking notice of within our children. And sometimes we need to turn off the TV, sometimes we need to put down the computer, we need to put down our phone and talk to our children. Listen to what they're saying and not worry about, well, if what they say is going to hurt my situation. Our first priority is our children. So what is our responsibility as parents to make sure that this abuse is not going forward in our own home? Number 1, I have just 6 of these. Number 1, provide a safe environment in your home for your child. It is our responsibility as parents to provide a safe word. If they can't say, if they're worried, if they're sick, they know once they get home, they're good. They're safe, they're comfortable. That should be, there was a time where we used to say school was a safe zone. Well, that's been taken away from us nowadays. Right. But home should definitely be. And God says it's our responsibility as parents. Listen to your child. Start listening to them. I know they're little. I know they don't know everything. I know they don't understand anything. I know they definitely don't have all the answers. And I know they should be listening to what we tell them to do. You know how the children always say, but why this? Why? Just shut up and do what I say. That's not listening to our children. When they have questions, we have to talk to them, explain to them, and listen to why they're asking why this, why that. Because you know what? If you keep talking and listen to them, they might tell you, you know what? There's something that's been going on. Maybe I've been abused in school. Maybe I've been abused in my own home. And I even know it because we don't listen to our child. Know what child abuse is. My mother didn't know what it is. I was a child, of course, I didn't know what it was. I just thought it was something that happens to everybody. Know the signs of child abuse. I've given you some signs tonight. Maybe you can go back afterwards and listen to this recording or just take some mental notes to know what child abuse is, because one of your nieces, your nephews might be abused. And sometimes people don't want to listen. We have to know the avenues that we need to go take to report when abuse is going on in the home. Report child abuse. When we see it, what's that they always say, see something, say something? Right. It's true also with child abuse. when you see children in their neighborhood, they always want to stay at your house and they don't want to go home, question, why is this? Why do they feel safer here than they do at their own home? Maybe there's abuse taking place. At 6, if you suspect abuse, know the signs of an abusive parent. An abusive parents use violence as a form of punishment. My stepfather, it was his form of punishing me and trying to teach me a lesson, when actually it was abusing his own child. Let me conclude by letting everybody know that 1 in 4 of very children experience abuse in their lifetime. 1 of 4. It should be 0 of 4. But it's actually 1 of 4. 25% experience abuse in their lifetime. And finally, 1/3 of parents who were physically abused, and this is the real big one, 1/3 of parents who were physically abused as a child will subject their child to the same type of abuse or worse. And I'm going to wrap it up with this experience that I had. My own child was 3 years old, 3, 4 years old, and I was giving him a spanking. And while I'm giving him a spanking, for something he did with my hand, giving him a spanking, I just started crying out of nowhere. I just stopped and started crying. And because I just remembered what was happening with me. Remember, the topic of this is freeing yourself from memories of child abuse. I couldn't even discipline my own child because of how this abuse as a child had affected me years ago, 20, 30 years ago. And my child saw me crying. He just stopped his crying. And I'm on the floor just crying, thinking about what happened to me while I'm spanking him. And he said, "Daddy, what's wrong?" It's okay. While I'm spanking, he said, "Daddy, what's wrong? I promise I'll be good. I won't act up anymore." He said that because he saw me crying away. And I just hugged him. I just prayed and asked God, "You got to help me with this." Because I have to discipline my children. I have to teach them between right and wrong. But I can't be afraid to discipline them because it hurts me so bad. It makes me think of what I went through. Child abuse is real. And it's our responsibility as parents to identify this, know this, and when we notice it, to say something about it. But to make sure that your home is the most loving and the most safe home for your children. Thank you very much for this time.